I had a bunch of things I wanted to ask you. It's more to remind me about a few things that happened during our whole escapade, and for
Yeah,
me to pull some content out of it, man. So thanks so much for giving me this time. All right.
no problem.
First thing is, with all that was going on, we had this. Obviously, the race got cancelled. We knew about that, and everything around us was getting cancelled. So, what inspired you to put together the race, anyways?
Big question to start.
Mm,
I think, mate, one of the advantages of being a coach athlete is knowing that the work that it takes to put into an Ironman triathlon. And I think the big difference a lot of people don't recognize within triathlon is the difference between training for a half Ironman and the training for a full Ironman.
yeah.
It's something that each time I train someone through an Ironman block, which I've done now, I've been doing it since probably around 7 years now, and probably had 3, 4, 5 people go through an Ironman block a year. I never lose sight of the fact of how difficult it really, really is. And I think something so difficult deserves and has earned a reward at the end of it. And so whenever something happens like this, when someone's gone through really hard training, normally through an Ironman block, it's an absolute priority of mine to make sure they get the most out of it. So whether it is actually doing the race and really understanding how to push themselves the most within the race, or whether the race has been cancelled and the person has to go on to a different event. We knew with this event that it wasn't going to be anytime soon. So I knew we had to make our own event. And that's why I came up with the COVID-19 triathlon.
Dude, but what about things like, I mean, Miranda shared with me a screenshot of the weather of Dubai about 4 or 5 days before the race. And she was like, in typical Miranda style, she was like, fuck, did you see this? This was nuts. What do you think about this? And I was looking at it and going, yeah, but I said, you know what? I'm sure Tom's not going to put us in any risky situation. If it's really bad, I'm sure he'll call it off. So even through that, waking up in the morning and seeing that weather report looking like that, you still thought it was a good idea to go through with it, with the semi-lockdown that was there and everything else. What gave you the confidence that everything would be fine, that there'd be nothing to be worried about? Because it was only you as a support team, right? There was
Yeah,
only one
yeah.
person. So
I
what was,
only expected myself to be there, to be honest.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really didn't expect anyone else to be coming along.
yeah,
My main thought, my main thing was just, this was such a cursed race from we had about 6 or 7 signed up to it from the start.
yeah,
Last year, the backstory to the race was last year I went down there to race and yeah, didn't have the most successful race myself, and all sorts of things happened around the event time, and it's almost like it is just a cursed time of year and a cursed race for us guys. And before we even hit Christmas time, we had 2 people drop out, and then a third dropped out, and then, as we know, it got postponed quite
yeah,
late,
yeah.
really, compared to others. So I almost said, like, to myself, okay, I'm gonna trick the world into thinking that nothing's happening here. So I ignored any weather, I ignored any things of lockdown, and just said to myself, right, I'll make the call on Friday. I'll leave it as last minute as I can before I make this call. And we know Dubai weather, we know it can be
Yeah.
very flaky, and it could have blown through overnight. Instead, it actually came in the morning.
Yeah.
But I knew once I'd started you guys off that I could make the call anytime after that. I wasn't reliant on a lot of people, so I wasn't messing with most people's days. It was purely messing with my own day, and then
Yeah.
you guys were as well. So yeah, I think there was not one point, maybe a few points towards the end where I thought, okay, if they start to say to me they're not comfortable here, then I'll pull you straight out. But overall, I thought it was a safe activity to carry on with throughout the whole time. I would have done it myself, and that's normally my sort of basis to go on.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. You also mentioned to us over coffee at my place that if this was an actual Ironman event, they would cancel the race. What would be the grounds of canceling the race? Would it be the morning swim? Would it have been the wind and the bike, or would it be towards the end of the run?
I think it wouldn't have been the swim. I don't think
No.
they normally don't cancel a swim halfway through. I believe it would have probably been on the bike with the wind picking up as it did and the sandstorm. And then I also think if they'd have looked ahead towards the lightning coming in, they would have probably cancelled it over that as well. And it would have purely been off some health and safety parameters that would have, caused that. So I think when you look at it from an athlete's perspective, you want to be asked, do you feel comfortable to carry on, yes or no? And then you can make that call yourself, which I was lucky enough to say to you guys. But when you're thinking of other people who haven't got maybe the decision making or the knowledge to understand maybe what they're actually standing in, like a lightning storm, that you have to make the decision for them.
Yeah. Could it also be that, is it also the factor over there that during a typical race, there are 2,000 participants, then you're talking about a larger number of people participating, as a result, more people at risk, etc.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome, dude. And can I ask you a question? What did you get out of doing this? I mean, Miranda and me got this awesome satisfaction of just finishing this training block and, going through with the race. But what did you get out of it? Because you were there from 6:15 in the morning till I finished at 1:20 a.m. So at least I was going through all of the entire race. What did you get out of the whole thing?
Look, if you tell me I'm going to have the day on my own to do whatever I want, I'm more than happy. I just got out of it pure pride. I can't really put it in any other way across. Having seen both of you develop over the time, and I've worked with both of you actually for the similar time frame. You both came on with about 6 to 7 months worth of training to get done, and so we went through quite an intensive block of getting to know each other. And you both instilled a trust in me that was really assuring for me to have. And so I never even crossed my mind that it was a day of any sort of, I don't know. I was just there, and I was just happy to be there, and I set myself up, and I always had something to do. And so it just was a nice day for me. I had no issues whatsoever.
And just to get the facts straight, this was Saturday, and on Thursday you had a big ride for yourself up and down Jabal Jais, right? Was that Thursday?
Yeah, that was on Wednesday.
That was Wednesday.
Yeah.
So you had Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. My original plan if South Africa was cancelled, because I had thought ahead of it, was I was going to do a 10K swim on the Thursday, then an Everest on the Friday, and then support you guys on the Saturday. And because I wanted to just show that you can do it all, and as a coach I wanted to show it as well. So then something happened that our business, the gym, closed on the Sunday, and so we kind of had some days to kill essentially for things to sort of lay into place. So instead of going to Jabal Jais on the Friday, we actually went on the Wednesday instead. And then the Thursday, I was obviously, if you ride your bike for 14 hours or whatever, you're not in a great place to swim for 10K. So I was relaxing Thursday and actually working, and then instead just supported you guys on the Saturday with nothing before. So yeah, I was I'd taken care of myself, if you like. I'd taken care of scratching the itch that I had from the training block for South Africa. So it made it even better for me to just be able to support you guys.
Did you share this idea with any of the other coaches or anybody else? Bounce off the idea of anybody else in terms of what you were planning to do with us?
No, I just set it up and did it.
And setting up the course and stuff like that, because given your schedule and all that, how prepped were you in advance for this trip? Did you know the points where you were going to be in advance, or is that something you took a call on the day off?
So when I sent you the course, I'd looked earlier in the week at what the bike course would be, and then I plotted down where I thought it would make sense for me to station myself.
Yeah.
And then to my plan of tricking the universe into not calling it off, I then didn't send it over to you guys till the Friday and map it out properly. Yeah. And then obviously I knew I'd be mobile, so it didn't matter too much where I was going to set myself up, but I knew around somewhere out quite far out back of the desert of the Alcudra cycle track would have made sense. So that's where I went.
That's awesome, dude. Um, so, so I think I was looking over TP today and I saw that we began coaching together on August 10th, was my first ride that you plugged in TP for me. So what was the whole coaching journey for you with me? Because you've obviously coached a lot of people along the way. And you said you've been coaching triathletes now for 7 years?
Yeah, since I was like early 20s, so 22, 23, and I'm going to turn 30 at the end of this month. So yeah, it's
Okay.
been around 7-8 years.
And how many athletes have you seen through a full Ironman so far?
I think on average it's about 5 to 6 a year. So yeah,
Okay.
quite a few.
So this is for me to know. Okay, this is for me to know a little bit about myself.
Yeah,
What was different or what stood out or what were the pain points for you with me?
I think I think because you came off 2 MDSs, I wasn't too worried about one, your mental resilience, and two, your aerobic ability to run. So
Okay.
I kind of sat back and made out like a strengths and weaknesses of what I thought were yours. And, I could see that obviously, so running would be fine and mental resilience would be okay. But then I learned, obviously swimming was a very poor one. So we had to work on that. And also, cycling, you were brand new to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I liked about you and the start of our journey was you weren't sort of, you weren't like robotic. So I had to find a way of getting you to buy in. And I think one of the biggest ways of getting you to buy in is to almost humble you with what you think you could do and what you could be okay with. And I think that's such an important trait to have in people, is being okay to be humbled and being
Yeah.
okay to be told, this, you're shit right now and you need to get better. And I think once I understood that about you, I could start to get to work and give you goals and give you challenges that I knew would humble you, but all as building blocks towards the big day.
What would you say was the biggest disappointments for you coaching me through the journey, not on the race day, but through the whole thing? Where do you think I dropped, or where do you think I dropped the ball, or I could do better or more?
I think at the beginning you probably did yourself a bit of a disservice to one, not buy into the importance of strength training
Yeah.
with triathlon, especially in that early point of your training block. Because as I said to you, once we get into the meet and the real point of the training block, there isn't really going to be much time for strength to happen. So it needs to happen now. And I feel like that message got ignored a little bit. And then also probably the swimming side of things was like just telling you that you need to get the basics right and
Yeah.
focus from the start. And then what, I'm not saying it was disappointing, because you'd always come straight to me and say, look, I just didn't have it today, I didn't do it today. And that in itself shows to me that you sort of want to do it, but something isn't clicking. And so I'm not blaming you for that. I think the click comes from a two-way relationship. It's from the coach trying to find out where that click is, and from the athlete understanding how to make the click happen. And so it wasn't so much disappointing, but it felt like you were doing yourself a disservice, that you could have been that little bit better starting off when the real hard training began. But as it happens, we weren't, and we sort of built from scratch as we went on.
Yeah. And you said the two things that you didn't need to worry about me was, one was mental resilience and the aerobic running ability. And do you think these are things that people can pick up? I mean, do you think these are things that people can just learn for themselves? I mean, if you don't have mental resilience today, is that something that a person can build in?
Yeah, they're both the two traits that are 100% learned, and they take experience and they take time. You can't build you can't build a good aerobic base in a season. You need multiple,
Yeah.
and you can't build mental resilience from like one challenge. You can start to build it, but I think showing you've gone through, like even someone with one MDS, I would say, you know, has some mental resilience. They've shown signs of it, but has it really become a trait of theirs? Probably not. Someone who does two, it's not the days, it's not the MDS itself, it's all the training that you've gone through to get there. That's the big win. And so for you to have two MDS training blocks plus two MDS events, it just wasn't an issue. I knew it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Do you think some people are more, the mindset is more that they probably enjoy that time with themselves? Like for me, the first time around when I did MDS, I enjoyed the fact that I was disconnected from such a busy world on a weekly basis. I had 5 days out with clients and the family and everything else. And that weekend, the Thursday or the Friday, I would have to head out to the desert and be on my own. So I actually enjoyed being out there on my own. The prospect of possibly getting lost was actually, you know, and then finding my way back and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was an adventure for me. So I enjoyed that part of it. But do you think that, I've lost my train of thought with this question, but do you think that that is something, I mean, I looked forward to it. So I don't know whether I saw that as much of a challenge per se. I was actually very excited every time I saw that in my training peaks that where Marcus had put down, hey, you got to go to the desert for 8 hours today. I was like, yes, this is great. This is awesome. And there are times where I dropped the ball in that as well. I remember a couple of times when there were bad sandstorms. I didn't stay overnight when I was supposed to, and a bunch of things. But overall, I enjoyed getting out there. So for me, going through the first MDS alone was amazing because it allowed me time with myself. And I thought it allowed me a lot of time to sit and digest and evaluate life and everything else that was going on around me, all the constant information that we're receiving. This was my time with myself to just evaluate all these things. And so I enjoyed it. So I don't think that was much of a, I don't think it was too much of a challenge there. Second time around, MDS was exciting for me because of the company of the guys. But in all honesty, I enjoyed my time alone the first time around a lot more because it seems like it doesn't seem like a boys trip kind of a race, if you know what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
It would, I thought it was best for me to spend, that's why the long day I spent time on my own saying, listen, I'm just leave me alone for a while. And it was amazing. So one of the reasons I didn't quit, by the way, or one of the reasons I jumped on board when you said, hey, we're going to do this session together on the 21st, and are you guys okay with it, is because September of the year before, I was speaking at an insurance convention, and I was addressing the top 500 advisors in the life insurance business. And the topic that I had chosen to speak about was setting larger than life goals. And I told myself then, in September, I still hadn't begun my swim routine well. If you remember, I had that cupping incident on my back, skin had been off, I couldn't swim for a while, and a bunch of things happened. But at the end, I think about 3 days before my talk, when I was in Austin, I remember adding a last slide to it. And the last slide was actually committing to the room that I would, by the next time I saw them at top of the table, which would be September of 2020, I would have completed a half Ironman and a full Ironman. And in September, I still hadn't done a single triathlon. So the reason I put that out there is because this was a recorded event. So I wanted to be held accountable for it. And that's why when you said, hey, listen, this is going on, I'm going to put this together, would you guys do this? So I have this wall of goals that I don't know if I can show this to you or not. But if you see that wall over there, that's a white wall with a white wall with a white board paint on it. And every morning I sit and I write down things. First thing in the morning, that's what I do. I'll write down my goals. I'll erase them from the night before. It's the same 16 goals for the year, but I write it down every day so that every day I do something that takes me towards that. And before the race got cancelled, I had to erase my Singapore trip because I was speaking over there. I had to erase that because of COVID, and I had to erase Boston because we got to know about Boston during one of my training sessions. And then this happened, and I said, you know what? If I had the chance because I've committed to it. I've told the guys at MDRT that I'll be doing this and they're going to hold me accountable. Whether they will or not, I don't know. They hear so many speakers. But the fact that I told these people about it made me want to do this, right? So that was my driving force behind why I should do this and why I should continue with it. And I know I messaged you twice. I messaged you once about quitting, and I told you once physically when I met you at the beginning of the run that I was done. But in my head, I know that I would have still pushed on. You did something to change it a couple of times. You told me there was going to be tailwind. There wasn't. You told me you told me give me 5 kilometers on the bike on the run and you can come back. And I think, I don't know, but my thought process over here is you knew that if I started running I wouldn't stop. Is that where you were with this, or am I just assuming this right now? Okay.
No,
so
you're dead right.
Okay, so because I began running and I couldn't stop after that. Literally a couple of minutes into it, I sent you a voice note saying, "I'm fine now. Thank you for making me to get running," and I was good to go from there. But the thing you told me at coffee at my place when Miranda and you were here is that you weren't going to let us quit, no matter what.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. Going into it with you, I assumed, even when you told me, when I sent you a picture of me under this tree and it started raining, you said, "We're waiting for you." When you said "we," I assumed you were talking about you and Miranda, and that the weather had got so bad that you decided to call the race off. So I'm assuming that I'm going to come and meet you at the bottom of the stake, and you and Miranda were going to be there, and we were done.
Yeah.
That's the thought process. And then when I turned the corner to getting to the stake, and that's where Miranda was finishing her first 14 or 15 kilometers of the run. And when I saw her running, I suddenly thought, what happened? Did she begin running and did she finish 14 kilometers so quickly from the time it took me to get from there to? And then I realized, when I saw Andrew, you and Andrea waiting over there, I realized this was the we you were talking about. Till then, my assumption was, of course, when I saw Miranda, I knew by then that we're just going to go through with this and finish it. And she looked really happy, down the run. I was like, okay, I need to go out and finish this. But you said you weren't going to let us quit, regardless of what happened, despite my messages to you about not wanting to do this, about the wind. I turned around for 3.5 kilometers and I did go back on the bike, things like that. So what was, again, I know what you told me already about the race and why you wanted us to get there, but why were you so sure that we won't quit?
Purely because of the training block that an Ironman puts you through, and knowing you both obviously well enough, because I'd been the one putting the block in of how you worked. And so what I wouldn't have done is set up anybody for this triathlon who wasn't in a position to do it. So we actually had a third person here in Dubai who was supposed to do South Africa, and I said to him, I don't think you're in a position to do this. You're not in the right mind frame. He's already done like 4 or 5 Ironmans, so it really wouldn't have been a challenge for him. It would have been a challenge, but it wouldn't have been one worthy of him having to dig deep into his mind and his body to put himself through it. And so I wasn't going to say to him, look, this is what you're going to do today, because I wouldn't be sure that he would do it and benefit from it. I knew with you guys, because you'd both committed to it, and just knowing you both over this past 6 months, I just knew you wouldn't want to quit. So if you ever challenged me with trying to quit, I really wasn't going to let you, because that's just, it would have eaten you alive. Both of you, it would have eaten you alive for the weeks to come.
How frustrating would it have been for you to receive that message from me saying I'm quitting? Because you would have seen it. You saw the message a couple of minutes after I sent it to you. I already turned the corner by then. I was sharing my live location with you. You knew I was going in the wrong direction. So what was your thought process over there?
To be honest, I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. I literally knew if I messaged you back saying turn around, you would. So that's all I cared about.
That's literally what
Um,
you did. You messaged me and said turn around, and I said okay, I'll just turn around. But you
yeah,
also said there was going to be headwind. That's why I turned around. That's why I turned around.
yeah, yeah. Like I'll fully admit, I spent the day tricking both of you into keep keep on going. I think if you're not doing that mentally yourself, then someone else needs to be doing it for you. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't see any problem because I just knew if you didn't finish it, you would, or you quit, you would regret it so much. So yeah, I was very happy telling little white lies all day.
I had an amazing takeaway from Miranda that day, and she set herself up to not fail at all. She didn't carry her phone with her. So there
Yeah,
was no way she could communicate to you or
yeah,
anybody that she was ready to quit. I
yeah,
thought that was pretty epic, man. When I heard she did that, I was like, wow, that's next level. That's my takeaway, by the way, from her from the whole race, because she bitched and cribbed so much about this in the beginning. But when I heard she did
yeah.
it, I was like, wow, just awesome.
I
Phenomenal.
think that's for her. That was the only way it could be done. That's why I told her you're not allowed it, because she would have found a way out with it, I'm sure. Um, I thought it was a little bit different for you,
Right.
so I wasn't too concerned with you having it.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I took the phone had to do more with I wanted to capture any moments I had, which I did. The second
Yeah,
was just to make sure that the Sangeeta and the kids knew I was okay through the whole thing.
yeah.
Okay, so another question quickly for you then is, what is the shortest time you've seen an athlete through from start to a full Ironman with no triathlon training and stuff like that? How many athletes or what would be the timeline?
Um, well, if you want to use quite an extreme example, I took Miles, who
Yes,
you know Miles.
of course.
He came on board to do Project DXP, which is a marathon program we run here for Dubai Marathon, which starts 3 months out from the marathon.
Yeah,
And a couple of weeks before the marathon, he switched over to me for his triathlon coaching
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I prepped him for Ironman New Zealand, which was on, well, a month, maybe a month after Dubai Marathon for that.
Yeah,
So that's an extreme case of about a month with someone, but he'd obviously been training prior.
yeah,
I think from absolute scratch to an Ironman, one of my first ever clients was this is still one of my like favorite stories to tell today.
yeah,
He I don't know if you know much about sport in Wales, which is where I'm from, but rugby is very famous there.
yeah, sure.
And if you know rugby, you know that there's a position called a prop forward, which is the
Okay,
least, what you'd call least athletic position on the field. Maybe they're the big guys who go into
okay.
the scrums. And this guy was a farmer. He was late 40s when he came on to me, and he'd had two knee
Wow,
replacements, two knee
wow.
reconstructions. And he sat down with me, and his wife unfortunately had died through a form of cancer, and he
Wow.
wanted to raise money for this charity, and so he wanted to do it through Ironman Wales. And we sat down together, and he told me his story, and my buy-in was immediate. All I wanted to do was help this guy. And so he hadn't run longer than a rugby field in I don't know how many years. He didn't own a bike, and he couldn't swim. And over the space of about 10 to 11 months, we got him up and running. We got him out cycling, and he learned to swim, and he completed Ironman Wales at his first attempt, which is just nuts. And so that's probably my all-time favorite of absolute zero to Ironman, and it took about 9 months. Everyone else I've had has had some previous experience of triathlon, but this guy had absolutely none. And we still chat today, actually, however many years long, 7 to 8
Wow.
years after.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's gone on to do maybe, he must be up to double figures of Ironman now.
Really? Wow. So he's
Yeah.
made this like a life choice. He's just doing this constantly now.
yeah, it's a huge part of his life, and he farms every day. So he's up at stupid o'clock in the morning. He does his farm work, and he stays out till super late at night. If you know what a sort of farmer's schedule is like, it's not
Yeah.
easy, and he fits all his training in around. So he was the first client I ever coached, and so my baseline of excuses is like super super high. If you come to me with an excuse, I'll find a way around it, because I've seen what humans can do with the amount on their plate. And you know, he had a daughter, he had parents to worry about and look after, he had life to go on with. And so yeah, it was the best lesson I ever had within endurance coaching, and it was my first triathlon client as well.
Wow, that's crazy, man. How many people don't make it?
A lot.
So,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, do you mean like with the race, or do you mean people that give up along the way of, you know, while being trained?
To be honest, now I set myself up that I won't let anyone into my circle who I think won't make it. So we have a very detailed questionnaire before you come on board with us. We have an interview process before you come on board, and I will go further by sort of looking at your Instagram profile. I'll check out any of your social media stuff, because number one, it's a huge investment in time and money for someone who's doing Ironman. And if I don't think you can do it, then I don't want you to spend that money. And if I don't think it's the right event for you, then I don't want you to go through the stress that it creates. When I was quite a bit younger coaching, obviously you want to get your foot in the door with a lot of things. And so you tend to accept sort of anyone and anything really that comes your way with clients. And there was a time where I just kept dropping the ball, I felt, as a coach with athletes, because athletes would get injured, or they'd fall off plan, or they'd lose motivation. And I used to really take it a lot to heart. But now over the years, as I've built up sort of profiles of people who succeed within endurance sport, or have the traits that I'm able to work with best, actually I haven't had a failure for a long time now. But it's kind of because I don't allow myself to work with people who I don't think we'll succeed together with. And I've had people I've turned away and have gone on and achieved their goal through a different coach. And I'm absolutely fine with that, because I think that they've obviously just found a better fit with that coach. You know,
Sure.
It's not just about the athlete, it's about the coach as well. The coach-athlete relationship is so important.
Sure. And when our entire race was done, what was your feeling? How did you feel?
I was fired up, like so fired up. I put it on my story, and it was just, you know, it was 1:30 in the morning. Anyone who knows me, like, I'm in bed at 8. I'm like the least late person in the world. But
Yeah.
at no point in that day did I like drop in energy. I felt like I was just ready to rock all day. And at 1:30 in the morning, I was probably the most motivated triathlon coach in the world at that time, because I just love seeing people get what they deserve when it comes to training. So yeah, I was so fired up. I think it was just pride more than anything. Like,
That's awesome.
I was just so proud.
That was awesome, man. I was trying to get you guys to leave. Well, I knew you wouldn't leave, but I was trying to get the rest of them to leave, because I reached a point where I was walking, and I never thought I would walk for the run part of it. I never thought I would resolve to this. So for me, I was like, this is not even going to be a crazy finish. Why are they still here? Just get up and go. This was my thought. I was like, just leave. I'll finish it. Doesn't make a difference. But yeah, I was keen on knowing your thoughts. I really want to know your thoughts about this now that the race is over. When we began, before we began, I began the run. I sat down, and you said, "Were you planning to wear these socks?" I said, "Yes." You said, "Then you should." And I said, "Okay." And then I was there for like 12 minutes trying to put on the socks. What were your real thoughts about this? Because I know you weren't going to say anything that you really wanted to say to me at that point. But what were your real thoughts about this?
That wet feet and tight single-toed socks do not go well.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing really too bad, mate. I mean, I was laughing to myself because it was pouring with rain, and we're standing in the middle of the desert. It's pouring with rain. There's lightning everywhere. And I'm sat with a guy who I didn't know very well this time last year, let alone, 8 months ago. And I just think that's something I love about Dubai itself as well, is you connect with people that you never thought you would. But I'm quite good at thinking globally, so on a global scale. And so when I start to feel something is frustrating me, or I can't quite see around a situation, I just think big picture. And so, yeah, I was just laughing because it was pouring down with rain. There was lightning everywhere. And I'm laughing at a guy who is trying to put on socks around each individual toe. And it must have been one really unique situation that no one else has ever been in. And I got to be in it.
It was so frustrating because I have this hip mobility issue, so I realized I couldn't really bend forward anymore. And for some reason, I've done this before. I've used these socks before, even in a
Yeah.
triathlon, and I was like, "This was easy. Why is it giving me so much trouble right now?" And I could feel every grain of sand mixed with that rain. I was like, I should have just left the socks on. But okay, that was something. Even while running, I was like, "What was I thinking with the pink socks?" Anyways, that was okay. So a piece of, so by the way, by the moment we were done with that race, and I didn't share too much about it yet, just yet, because I'm still putting together my thoughts on the whole thing. And I've had a couple of people reach out to me though. For instance, people who saw it on Strava. A bunch of people that reached out to me suddenly said, "Did you just do this? Are you crazy? Are you nuts? Whatever it is." And I've had a bunch of other people reach out to me now and ask me, telling me their story about how they're starting from scratch, and is this right and or not, and what should they be looking forward to. So question I guess I have for you is, what's your one big piece of advice to athletes out there right now when so many events are getting cancelled, and especially given where we are right now, where we can't go out and even practice our sports. I know people are innovating. Yesterday I saw Akbar finished a whole marathon and in a 60-meter loop around his house. I know Lee Ryan did this, a bunch of guys in InnerFight are doing this as well. It's amazing. But what is your one piece of advice to these athletes out there who feel restricted right now, restrained? They can't go out and practice their sport, and all their races are getting cancelled. What would you tell them?
I'm telling people that when you look back at this time that we're in of COVID-19, I want you to think back and be proud of how you acted and what you did.
Yeah.
And not think back with regret, or think back thinking, "Oh, so-and-so did that, I wish I did." I think as if there's ever a time to be proud of your actions, it's now, and not a time to be thinking, "I wish." That's what I'm telling people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think, I don't know whether I shared my biggest wins with you, but my biggest wins for the day was finishing the swim, because my entire, are you still there, Tom? Did I lose
Yeah,
you?
I'm still
Okay,
here.
sorry.
No, I'm
So
still here.
my biggest win for the thing was, when I began this whole triathlon journey, it was about forcing myself in a situation that would make me learn how to swim better. So the morning of just finishing the swim was a huge win for me. To be to
Yeah,
be to be honest, if I was done even at that point, I would hate it the next day, but I would have accomplished that goal of being able to swim that 3.8 kilometer stretch. That would have been the biggest takeaway for me already. And the second biggest win for me for the rest of the day was not having my headphones, podcast, music, or anything for those 18 odd hours.
yeah,
Those two were the biggest takeaways for me from the
yeah,
whole thing. Yeah, that was huge. That was
yeah.
huge.
I think my context of saying what people should be doing now, I think that doesn't have to be on a sport and activity level. I think if you can look back on COVID-19 and be proud of the way you acted in your business, or the proud of the way you acted
Yeah,
with your family or schooling
yeah,
your kids, then that is what should take priority. It doesn't have to be doing a crazy challenge. Like, you don't have to run a marathon around your garden, or you don't have
yeah,
to row 50K, but
yeah.
don't just sit there and be doing nothing, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, one last thing to share with you before I let you go is I love your commitment as a coach. And you asked me during our podcast who was either during the podcast or during coffee before Christmas. I'm not sure. You asked me who was my role model, and I didn't have an answer for you. And the reason I didn't have an answer for you is I have broken up my life into various quadrants, and I have role models for different quadrants, right? So for from the finances and the commercial standpoint, I've got somebody else who's a role model for me. From a parenting perspective, I've got somebody who's a role model. Um, from a, I've never, I have always dabbled with the idea of being a coach in sales for a specific industry, right? Um, and I wanted to tell you after that event, that was the first thing I wanted to tell you was I have a role model for a coach now who I'd like to be, and that would be you. So
Wow.
thanks for being that coach, man. That was really awesome that you put this together for us. You managed it single-handedly, and you know saw us through it. I mean, till the end. Thanks so much for that, dude. Uh,
Mate, it was such a pleasure, and that's super kind of you to say. It
no, no, I
it
mean it. It
literally
was, yeah,
it wasn't going to happen any other way, you know. There was
that, that was
it was
amazing.
the only way it was going to end.
That was amazing, man. Thanks so much for that, Tom.